को इंशाल्लाह हल करेंगे। हम घबराने वाले लोग नहीं हैं।
Nawaz Sharif, is he the answer to Pakistan's problems or just more of the same? As usual, it's complicated. It was 14 years ago that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's government in this parliament was overthrown by General Pervez Musharraf in a military coup. Nawaz Sharif was arrested and later exiled to Saudi Arabia. Today, in an ironic twist of fate, Nawaz Sharif is back in government and Pervez Musharraf is under house arrest. So although he entered politics under the wing of a general in the 1980s, the leader of Pakistan's new government has a confrontational past with the army. The military is immensely powerful in Pakistan, with vast economic interests and huge political influence. In fact, the previous government, for the most part, allowed the army to dictate foreign policy. Nawaz Sharif says that has to change and power must be restored to the civilian administration. But his approach is likely to be more tactful this time round, tempered by his previous experiences, and the military is expected to be more receptive.
His relationship with the army, the past has not been all that rosy.
Talat Hussain is one of Pakistan's top journalists with a reputation for honesty and integrity. His political talk shows and reports from the field are watched by millions of Pakistanis every week. He believes Nawaz Sharif, the military and public opinion have all evolved, making another ouster of a government led by Sharif highly unlikely.
The issue with Nawaz Sharif right now is that he has to go beyond his past grudges. There's ample room for him that will allow him to do that, because the army over the last 5 years has changed remarkably. An independent media, a new judiciary, a very vibrant, in-your-face kind of civil society. The old days of coups are gone, the generals being hoity-toity and not listening to you and you listen to our command is gone. It's a completely new Pakistan that way. And Nawaz also knows that. But Nawaz also knows that in dealing with hardcore problems such as counter-terrorism, such as stabilizing the Balochistan border, he has to keep the army on its right side. So you would see, I would say, a fairly healthy relationship between Nawaz Sharif and the army, which will also have its change of guard and command in the next couple of months.
See this death squad around me.
One likely bone of contention is Nawaz Sharif's plans to negotiate with Taliban groups operating inside Pakistan to bring an end to the regular bomb attacks and violence that have plagued the country for years. It's a policy shared by Imran Khan, whose party won enough seats in the elections to be a significant force in opposition. But it's also a policy that has polarized Pakistani public opinion.
Well, military has already shown its skepticism about these negotiations.
Zahid Hussain is an award-winning print journalist who runs Pakistan's Newsline magazine. He also reports for foreign publications such as The Times of London and The Wall Street Journal.
In various statements, Taliban have clearly asserted that they do not want they see democracy as anti-Islam, and they do not recognize Pakistani constitution. We have seen in the past too, there has been negotiation with the Taliban and it never succeeded. There have been 5 peace agreements with the Taliban in the tribal areas as well as the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but it has not worked.
But negotiations are already taking place in neighbouring Afghanistan and now seem inevitable in Pakistan.
Well, the whole world is negotiating with the Taliban. The Americans are negotiating with the Taliban. The Doha offices are to be opened. I think if my information is correct, the Northern Alliance and the Taliban have already had a meeting. It's going to be a formal meeting eventually in the next couple of weeks, not even months. The Americans have endorsed it, the Saudis have endorsed it, the Iranians are part of it, the European Union has endorsed it. It's a question of formalizing it. So it's not just a political party talking to the Taliban. The whole world is talking to the Taliban. I think Nawaz Sharif and also in the province where Imran Khan is likely to make his government, they will be the beneficiaries of this peace process because they wouldn't have to deal with it. The wheels are already rolling. All they have to do is to make sure that they keep on rolling in the right direction.
Sharif has also pledged to bring an end to US drone strikes in Pakistan, although he's been vague on when or how. It's an objective he may be able to achieve, with the US looking for Pakistani cooperation as it pulls out of Afghanistan next year.
The Americans will also be under pressure. They are already under pressure from the international community over that issue. It's not a very popular action. And I think probably as the Americans are planning to leave Afghanistan by 2014, and they need Pakistan's support badly for some kind of political settlement with the Taliban. So in this situation, Pakistan can pressurize Americans.
But although in public, in the run-up to the elections, he capitalised on growing anti-US sentiment, Nawaz Sharif has been careful not to overstep the mark. And post-elections, he's pledged continued close relations with both the US and UK governments.
One thing is very clear, that it is not going to be hostile relations with the United States. If we look actually 1996 last government, his relations with the United States was not bad. It was a different situation altogether. I don't see any major change in US-Pak relation under Nawaz Sharif.
He has a constituency that is right of center, yes, but he was also the one, and people often forget that, who started the first Get Osama bin Laden operation in collaboration with the Americans under Bill Clinton, amply documented in Steve Cole's book Ghost Wars. So when people say that, he's kind of pro-Taliban, I am not really too sure of that.
At the same time, Nawaz Sharif has welcomed closer ties with the Chinese, who are already a major investor and trading partner, potentially diluting US influence. But the real test of his independence will be whether or not he presses ahead with the planned gas pipeline from Iran. Pakistan certainly needs the gas, but the US and Saudi Arabia have warned against it, the US threatening sanctions. Talat Hussain believes Nawaz Sharif certainly has options. Whether he takes them or not is a different matter.
What would the Americans do? Tighten the squeeze on Pakistan? Okay, fine. They have 80 billion or 90 billion worth of military equipment to pull out of Pakistan in the next 1.5 years. If you want to tighten the squeeze, well, frankly, find another route. They have to leave Afghanistan with a face-saving device. That's why they're talking to the Taliban. Guess what? Who's helping them do that? It's Pakistan. So frankly, it's not exactly the Americans saying don't go for the Iran gas pipeline or don't do this. The Saudis also frankly have become a distant influence. Pakistan in the last 5 years, for different reasons, did rely on the Saudi, but not really in a big way. Pakistan relies on the expat community that is based in Saudi Arabia, but frankly, considering how their labor policy is changing, a lot of that is going to be shunted out of Saudi Arabia anyways. So I think Pakistan is becoming increasingly inward looking, and internal pressures are going to be dictating terms. And it's not a country without options. Really, it's a big country at a very critical time for global community, when Americans want to leave Afghanistan with a good face and they want to pull out of Pakistani territory and they need our support. So we too probably will have a few cards to play. If Nawaz is smart about it, frankly, he can let everybody think that he is the dearest and the closest to them and secure national interests. I mean, that's the way the game is played.
So what of Nawaz Sharif's decades-long relationship with the House of Saud? Will his personal interests overbear on policy making?
I think Nawaz Sharif has a traditional relationship with the Saudis, and that relationship is going to stay there. But remember, the same Nawaz Sharif family has also done something quite remarkable in the last 4 or 5 years, that is building up a relationship with the Turks. The Turks are really big. And if you were to look at even the family investments, many of those investments have gone into Turkey as well. So, it's not that, they are putting all their personal or business eggs or country's policy eggs in one basket of the Saudis, because all politics have been proven to be local. No foreign power, no matter how important it is, can be allowed to hold sway over the domestic needs. If the domestic need is to get gas from Iran, that's how it's going to be. So I think Nawaz will also have to fine-tune quite a lot of how he conducted the foreign policy, because the imperative of public pressure and delivering services to the people is too much. Gone are the days when you would look at foreign governments saying do this or don't do that.
The 63-year-old veteran politician is also one of Pakistan's wealthiest industrialists. His party has built significant infrastructure and transport projects in the cities of his provincial heartland, Punjab, which have had a major impact.
He introduced real change through privatization, deregulation.
But he's also a fan of the free market and wants to privatize the railways and the national airline. He likes grandiose projects which are eye-catching but ultimately benefit relatively few, like his plans to build a bullet train service across the country and the motorway he built during his previous administration.
He basically fascinates big projects like this. When he built the motorway, there was a huge controversy around that, whether the government should have invested so much money on just motorway which is being used by hundreds of cars every day, or that money could have been diverted to other places, more backward areas of the country where you don't have any roads at all.
But although Nawaz Sharif is big business, his party relies for much of its support on rural Pakistan. And having seen the fury of voters against the outgoing government, and with a fierce political competitor like Imran Khan now in opposition, the new administration will have to take reviving the economy seriously.
He's got a good economic team, and the dichotomy between the rural areas and the urban areas in an agricultural country like Pakistan doesn't quite hold. The urban areas' prosperity depends on the produce in the rural areas. So I think he will have to really manage the both. It's not a question of one versus the other. It's really an all-inclusive. Both have to be the wheels that will roll the national economy. In urban areas, which are very, very important for the present leadership of Pakistan Muslim League Noon, Nawaz that is, the competition is very stiff with their opponents. They cannot take anything for granted. And the voters' wrath against the previous government has been absolutely breathtaking. And Nawaz Sharif knows that if they continue to misgovern like the predecessors, they will also be shown the door and obliterated, literally obliterated.
Part of his plan to improve government spending is to end the arms race with India. He's tried to build bridges in the past. That will allow him to reduce the country's massive military expenditure. But it's a route fraught with risk, putting him again on a collision course with the country's military establishment. Where he can and is likely to succeed is to end load shedding or power outages. The incredible mismanagement of Pakistan's electricity supply has meant some cities are crippled with up to 12 hours of power cuts a day. In rural areas, it's worse. The issue was a major rallying point in the election campaign.
This country is not underproducing. It has enough capacity. It's not an issue of capacity. It's a question of this capacity not being optimally utilized, because the companies that produce electricity, and those companies that supply them oil and gas, frankly, they are never paid properly on time. Therefore, the cycle of payment is interfering with the cycle of production. So, number one, he needs to get that cycle right. If I understand his close associates well enough, they have been working on it for almost a year now. So they in the first 100 days plan that they have a game plan ready. So I think you would see reduction in load shedding, which is going to be an immediate relief. 8 hours of load shedding reduced to 4 hours in the first 6 months, not exactly a bad achievement. But if 8 hours of load shedding is to be degenerating into 12 hours of load shedding, then Nawaz Sharif would have collapsed in the first year.
And of course, the ultimate question, what about corruption?
I think the barometer of success for Nawaz Sharif, apart from immediately addressing issues like electricity breakdowns and law and order and police, and and creating some sort of a momentum towards creation of jobs and giving people hope and sustaining. Apart from doing these things, the trajectory of his government and policy is going to be very important. If he's seen to be genuinely moving in the direction of eradicating corruption, then frankly not many people are going to be asking him in the first year, how much corruption have you been able to eradicate, if the progress and the trajectory is good.
Nawaz Sharif knows that Pakistan has changed. Pakistanis expect more from their leaders, and the honeymoon period will soon be over. If he doesn't start delivering quickly, he too, like the outgoing People's Party, will be left staring into the political abyss. Time is not on his side. With cameraman Arshal Jalib, this is Hassan Ghani for The Real News, Islamabad.